Hello, welcome to the payroll demo. I'm going to go ahead and select the $sign, and the payroll module is one of the financial modules. So you can pick and choose within this area which applications you want to automate. So let's go ahead and select payroll. Now, the same look and feel, the way our tabs are set up, or things you do daily are under the daily tab. Things you do more of a once a month, once a year, you're going to find those activities under the periodic tab. You're going to see reports. We do keep unlimited history. All of our reports you can email, you can put in Word, put in Excel, create a PDF, just like the other applications. We're going to look at some inquiries. We're going to take a look at how you can look at all the checks you've created, how you can drill down to detail. So we'll look at that as well. And the very last thing is something called tables. And this is actually where you get started. This is where you define, for instance, what are your deductions, your benefits, your pay types, your leave information, all that's set up in the tables. So we'll take a look at that as well. So let's go ahead and go to daily, and let's take a look at the information you can track on your employees. Let's look somebody up. What's nice about our solution is if you know part of the first name, the last name, the department, even part of the Social Security, you can search the database. So tell me what you know, and you can search. And I'll go ahead and bring up this employee right here. Now on this screen, you're going to be able to see everything about this employee on this one screen without having to leave it. You're able to access the information by going to the different tabs up here at the top. What I thought we would do first is let's take a look at the information on Paul. We're going to be able to track, where he lives. You're going to be able to track, is this a new hire or a rehire, or any key dates. Under the miscellaneous, there's also 7 fields that you can define, and you can define these drop-down tables. So in addition to what we already track, you can set up your own site-defined fields. But we're going to track the sex, the location, the department. You can have different classifications. We also support all of the different frequencies. So you might have a group that is on biweekly, monthly, and maybe even an annual frequency. You can support all of those different frequencies in the database. You also can do unlimited text, so you can track that information. And a feature that I really like is we give you the ability to create a template. So once you create this template and you define what you want to call it, it defaults all the key records. So for instance, let's say you're hiring an officer and they have certain deductions, certain benefits, certain pay types. You can default those so you can very quickly add new employees. Now the second tab is going to track key dates, birth date, hire date, review dates. You've also got unlimited notes and unlimited notes on the pay history, so you're not going to run out of space to track information. Now under the accounting tab, this is probably one of the most important things we do. As you know, in a municipal payroll, there's a lot of accounting that needs to take place. We give you the ability to allocate that to unlimited accounts. You can do it based on set percentages, or another example might be it's based on hours worked. So as you're entering in Joe's time, he's got 4 hours in the sewer district, 5 hours in the water, and you can allocate it based on hours worked. Now in this example, it's a pretty straightforward one. It's 100%. So you can obviously have it going by different percentages as long as it equals 100. Or if it really is the example where it's always changing based on hours worked, you define what it could be, and as you enter in the time, it'll default those. Now we do offer direct deposit. That's a standard feature, and what's really nice is not only can you do a direct deposit, but you can have your money going into unlimited accounts. So it could be based on dollar amounts or percentages, but you can define those different, maybe a checking, maybe a savings, maybe a Christmas fund. So you can define that, and instead of printing the actual check stub, you've got the ability to email that. So you can set it up so that you email those stubs so you're not having to print them and put them in envelopes. Now we do have the ability to do attachments. You saw this earlier. You can attach any type of document to the database. So it might be a picture, a PDF, a scanned in, an Excel file, If you can attach it in an email, you can attach it here. You can have unlimited attachments, and you can timestamp it and give it a good description so you know which one to select. So that's some information that we do track on your employees. If you go up here to the toolbar, you're able to see their taxes, their pay types, their deductions, the liabilities, benefits, and leave types. And on all of these categories, we support unlimited. So you're never going to have to use other. You can have as many different codes as you want, and all the tables are set up on how to calculate it. An example is, let's take a look at the different pay types. And so you can have as many of these as you want to set up. You give it a name, different rates. You can even have different taxes that come out of those different pay types. So once again, on one check, if you've got employees that do different jobs, different rates of pay, all of that can be on one check. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but let's say you have a question. You can hit the phone and electronically submit a support call right in the software. You don't have to call us. We know exactly where you're at, and you simply type in a question and let us know if you prefer an email or a phone call. So easy to get help. Same thing on deductions. You can have unlimited deductions. And so we handle both sides of the equation, the deduction side and the benefit side. The system is extremely flexible on how do you calculate this. First of all, several different ways to calculate this deduction. It might be just a fixed dollar amount. It could be a percent of something. It could be raised based on a user-definable field. So very rarely have we ran into a situation where we couldn't calculate that deduction or benefit. Once again, you can have one-time adjustments. You can also have year-to-date, or maximum amounts to take out. Or this happens a lot, maybe effective dates. You only want this taken out the first 6 months of the year. And if you're using our accounts payable system, we do have an interface so that as you do your payroll run, as you know, there's a lot of AP checks that need to get created. We can create those. So as an example, let's say you've got a child support and you want to send the check to the judge. That judge can be set up as a vendor, and when you do your payroll run, we're going to create those payables in the accounts payable system for you electronically, and so they're sitting there ready for you to select and pay. Even if you, let's say you do a weekly payroll, but you want to pay that vendor once a month, you can very easily do that, but it does all the work for you. Now, in addition, you can have unlimited liabilities, unlimited benefits. You define it, and like I said, we're going to track both sides of that, if it's coming out of the employee's check or if you're paying for that benefit, and all the things on taxable benefits. So very, very flexible on how you calculate things. Now, we also have a lot of accounts that track leave. And once again, you can have as many different leave types. You define it. What do you want to call it? How do you want to accrue it? And depending on how long you've been there, for instance, if I've been at the organization 10 years, I might accrue more time than somebody that's just been there 1 year. So you can have different accrual rates. You can even start accruing after a certain date. So maybe 90 days in, then you start. And then we can also keep track of when they roll to the next level. So this is all available. We do have some organizations that they don't really accrue, but let's say they start with 3 weeks at the beginning of the year, but then we're going to track it. We're going to keep track of when they use the time, and we'll also keep track of the balance. So depending on which way you do it, we can handle both scenarios, and you can print this information on the check stub so they're not calling you when they want to know how much time is left. So what's really nice is from this one screen, you're able to see everything on that employee. If you want to add a new one, you just hit new, and remember that template, you just grab which template, it defaults all those records. So that's something that you'll set up in the beginning that's very easy to add new ones or make changes to existing templates. So now that we've got our employees in the database, let's say it's time to do a payroll run, and what we need to do is tell the payroll system what changed. And so the way you do that is you go in and you enter in your changes. And let's go ahead and grab a group here. And so you're probably going to do this the way you get your time cards so that you're entering in those employees in one group. So this is going to bring in all those employees in that group. You define what you call it. And let me give you an example of some of the changes you might make. Let's say this employee used overtime. You can change, the regular hours and add in the overtime. Or let's say an example is you need to charge their time to a different cost center. So if you're doing it hourly, that long list of potential accounts will list here. You pick the one that you want to charge it off to. Or we have some of our clients that use projects and grants, and they'll actually charge off payroll time to that grant so that they can send it both directions, but really know the true cost of that project that spans multiple years. Now, if you keep scrolling over to the right, we even have something called machine time. Now, I haven't turned this on, but to give you an example, let's say you've got certain machinery and you want to keep track of the hourly cost. You can actually track through our payroll system. Joe used that mower for 2 hours, and it creates an entry to the GL. So once again, we do all the accounting. You can post that in detail. And let's say you've got a fairly large organization. We also have the ability that we can create an export to Excel so that you can actually key in the changes in Excel and just import in those changes. Or maybe you've got a time clock system and you want to be able to just import that time electronically. We have those options as well. Now, once you enter in your time, we've got some reports you can print to see, okay, does everything look correct? And you can run this to get a visual on what you've got keyed in before you run your payroll. And if you notice, these reports you can print to the screen, you can email, you can go to Word, Excel, just like a Microsoft product, so very easy to use those tools. Now, under periodic, this is where you're going to actually create your payroll run and do some other activities as well. One, as I mentioned, if you do have a timekeeping machine, we do have an import to bring in that time electronically so you're not keying it in. But if you are ready to run your payroll, it's really easy. You're going to select your group, and remember, you can have as many different groups as you want. So once you select your group, you're going to run through and calculate, print the reports, and then either print the stubs or email the stubs. So it's very straightforward. Now, we know every once in a while you've got certain things that you might need to do. So you may want to hold certain deductions or benefits, or maybe it's that one payroll run that you don't want things taken out of. You can override things. So for those odd payroll runs, you can very easily make those changes, or maybe put a note on the check. So these are for those things that are kind of out of the ordinary, but we do handle those. So that's the process. If you ever need to reprint checks, you can. Or let's say you need to recreate that file you send to the bank, you can do that as well. Now it is, as we mentioned earlier, tightly integrated with the general ledger. Just to give you an example of how tightly integrated it is, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at an example where we posted a payroll run to the GL and show you how you can actually drill down and see not only the journal that got created, you can see employees that were paid. So here's an example. Here's a payroll run. I'm going to double click, and here's the journal that gets created. Now, most payroll systems coming into the GL will do this. We take it one step further, and it's really unique to our solution. We're going to say, show me more. So what we're looking at in the accounting system is the payroll run that we just did on the payroll module. So at a high level, I can see an overview of the payroll. Now, I can even take it one step further and look at each individual check stub. So I can go all the way to the check stub in the general ledger, even though it happened over in payroll. So when you do post, one of the options is, do you want to post in detail? And most of our customers will take that option because they like to see that information. And we talked briefly about this. This is where we create those AP invoices so that we know, as you process your deductions and benefits, who the vendor is and how much the check should be for. So once again, if you do a weekly payroll but you want to pay that vendor once a month, that's okay. Definitely, W-2s, T4s, we maintain it at the federal level or the provincial level. It just depends on how you log on to the database, if it's a U.S. customer or a Canadian customer. We spell things a little different in the Canadian data set. Now, other things you might do periodically. This is really nice. I have the ability to do an across-the-board change. Maybe there's a change where it's going from 2% to 4%. I can do it globally. I can even do it for a certain pay type for a certain department. Now, this is another thing that very few software systems will do. We can actually make something retroactive. So an example is you've got a new increase, and maybe it doesn't happen until March, but you want to make it retroactive to January. We can easily do that so that you're not having to manually do that. It'll do the math for you. So once again, things that you might do periodically. Now, reports. As I mentioned, we keep unlimited history. We have a lot of reports in our report manager, but before we go there, something that I think is kind of unique to our solution is I could go to any payroll run, and it could be 10 years ago, and I can look at how did it calculate, show me how it got posted to the GL, show me the detail. I can even rerun the direct deposit. So I'm able to rerun these reports for any payroll run. I don't have to save it and hope, to a binder. I can actually just rerun it when I want to see the information. Also on the 940s and 941s, we print the whole form so you don't have those issues. And like I said, we also do have a report manager that we have several different types of payroll reports depending on what kind of data you're looking for. One is focused on general ledger information, debits and credits and that sort of thing. Most of them are under activity, and then we have some setup reports. But what you're going to find is we've got a long list of reports that you can run based on all those different categories for different points in time. So we can report on deductions and benefits and pay types and taxes. We can do it quarterly, year to date. So all those different scenarios that you might need in a payroll system, we've got these available that you can run. And once you select that, you can even further refine it. Maybe greater than, less than, maybe just a certain department. Because we know in payroll, you're always asked very specific questions, so we can pull out just that information. And in addition, we also have a report writer that works with all of these products. So, that you can drill down and even recreate some of these reports and make changes. So tons and tons of reports. We also, when we go into certain states where we have a lot of customers, we'll do state-specific things like, Texas, the TRMS reports, or some of the payroll reports for some of the different states. So let us know where you're calling from, and we can, confirm that we've got those different reports. Now, in addition to the inquiries, a couple things you might want to look at. One is, let's say you need to confirm balances. You're getting a call, verifying employment. We can very easily do that, but we can verify other things. Something standard is, the pay. I can do it quarterly, or I can do it year to date, and I could do it for each quarter. Or maybe you've got a question on taxes. I can do it quarterly or year to date. So depending on what you want to see, you're able to very easily see that for all those different categories. Now, we also, in the payroll system, let's say you're doing paper checks and one of your employees call you and they've lost their check stub. We have the ability to drill down to any check stub. I can click on the one I want to see, and it essentially takes me to that check stub, where in Windows I can copy and paste. So once again, you can drill down to that. I also have an inquiry here that I like, that you're able to see very easily on one screen everything about that employee. For instance, how are you paying them? You can see information on, show me all the taxes, show me all their deductions, their benefits, their leave types. So without going through the maintenance screen, I can very quickly get the information. And then we also have the ability to search based on type. I might want to get a list of everybody that has overtime pay, or everybody that has a certain deduction or certain benefit. So just by entering in the code, I can get a quick list of who's got that category. So depending on what you're looking for, we've got searches to get to the data. Now, the very last thing, and probably the most flexible thing about our solution, is the tables. This is where you set it up in the beginning on how do you want it to work. Unless you're making changes, you're not going to spend a lot of time here. And part of our service to get you live is together with you. Let's get your table set up. Let's make sure it calculates properly. And then we take you to actually entering in employees and going through a check run, and we don't consider you live until you're printing checks. So that's a service that we offer in addition to the software. So like I said, I thank you for your time today, and if you'd like to learn more, feel free to give us a call at any point. Thank you for your time.